Let's call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting for the Parish Council for May 25th, 2017. Would y'all stand, please? Mr. Shane Mack is going to give the invocation.
Bow your heads, please. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for the many blessings in life you bestow on us. We thank you for this great country, this great state, this great parish we live in. We ask a special prayer tonight for our military, Father, that you be with them and protect them as they fight for our freedoms. Father, in closing, I just want to say thank you for sending your Son to die on the cross so that we have the opportunity to spend eternity with you in heaven. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Mr. Lovell, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Sandy, would you call the roll?
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. Lovell.
Here.
Mr. Averitt.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here. I'd like to remind everybody, if you have a cell phone, please put it on silent or just turn it off for the duration. Also, if whatever item that comes up on the agenda that we speak, if you want to speak on the item, just raise your hand. We'll recognize you to come to the front and we'll allow you to speak. Item 7 is presentations. I think we're going to recognize the Holden High School softball state champions. Mr. Mack?
Yes, I'm going to go up front.
All right.
I'm going to ask my buddy Tab Lovell to come with me and help me hand out these certificates.
What about the rest of you holding people, huh? What?
Well, one of the reasons why I asked Tab is because the night y'all won, he texted me the score 5 minutes after y'all won. And he said, I want him up there at the council chambers. I said, okay, Tab, I'm with you, buddy. They the Holden Lady Rockets, that's my district. I said, we're going to get him up there. Monday morning, he called me. Hey, man, you got everything lined up? They're coming up to the council chambers? I'm like, bro, give me a few minutes. I'm going to get them up there. So I just want everybody to know it was important also to everybody. You know, Tab really kept up with y'all and really wanted y'all to
But a few girls on this team that my daughter plays travel ball with, so we spend the weekends with them all the time. So.
And let me give a little speech here before we call y'all up. One of the great things about Livingston Parish is our school system. With a well-run program. Thanks to the staff at the school board office and at the schools. They truly care about our children and their education. There's no doubt that Livingston Parish schools excel academically. As a matter of fact, it's to my understanding that Livingston Parish School District as a whole received a grade A on their scoring system, their report card. And I thought that was a big, honorable thing to do. But not only does Livingston Parish excel academically in the school system, there's one group of individuals that excels academically and athletically. Because it's to the best of my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, Scooter, I know y'all will. Ain't Holden High the only school in Livingston Parish to be recognized as state champions since we all got elected?
There's something about the water over there.
Hey, won a lot of them lately, and it must have worked.
Basketball last year.
Baseball.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Holden Lady Rockets was recognized as Class B state champion in basketball last year. And now, tonight, we'd like to recognize them as Class B state champions in girls softball. And now we would like to present some certificates. We'd like for all of y'all to come up and line up and hand out these certificates. So Coach David Knight and Rusty And is Lindsay here? And is Miss Chris here? Okay, well then y'all come on up and let's just get the members up here. And after we hand out these certificates, I'll call out the name and then you can hand it to them, Chad. We'll take us a picture with this fine, outstanding group behind me. Okay.
You know.
You may hand it to you and Brianna.
Brianna Reason? Not here. Approve that.
Several of them I've seen.
Anna Sands? Ashley Spear? Taylor Ford? Madison Knight? Emma Hutchins? Olivia Lack? Tony Smoke?
Definitely.
Ashley Paul? Olivia Big Time Barnes is not here, but her dad texted me today. She's one of the gals that plays with us every weekend. Taylor Barfield. Anna Harris. Not here either, is she? Shelby Ford. Not here either, is she?
And then this is for Coach Knight.
Coach David Knight, state champ. Congratulations, y'all.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, shove the chairs in, y'all.
Just make y'all's way around here.
Don't let you stay right here. Don't stay in the middle. Yeah, y'all get right in the middle, because all of us ugly. Yeah, you can stand in front of me, that'd be perfect. Say, I need this one right here, yeah.
Hey, make sure someone. Are we holding these?
We good?
Wait, Sandy.
Hold up, get back over there.
Oh,
My phone made that my photographer.
Thank y'all.
You sound like Mark.
Good work.
Thank y'all, ladies.
Play basketball too, right?
Congratulations.
And one more thing I'd like to say is I don't think this is the last time you've seen the Holden Lady Rockets in the
I
county.
think you're right, Shane. That's true. Always get excellent athletes out of Holden. It's just,
What happened to you?
well, I let Walker. They
kicked him out.
They did have Walker there again.
Olivia came up and gave me a
All right.
a couple nights in my house, just lately.
All right.
She's always been left.
You know, it's good that we have groups in our parish that
Oh, yeah.
accomplish stuff like this that we can recognize. It's good to be recognized. It is too. It's important. They spend a lot of time and effort doing it.
Item 8 is the adoption of the minutes for the May 11th, 2017 regular meeting of the council.
So moved.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wasson. Second by Mr. Avery. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item 9, Recreation District Number 2, authorization of $2 million revenue bond. I know Mr. Ryan couldn't make it, so I think he referred this to you.
He called me. The Livingston Parish Rec District 2 wants to issue $2 million worth of bonds, or up to $2 million worth of bonds. Jim has, he's analyzed the revenue, and they're more than capable of paying them back. I think they're going to acquire a piece of property to leave it for some soccer fields and some, picnic areas and stuff like that, and do some more lighting upgrades at their current facility. So it's just an introduction, right?
Sandy Marie by title.
This will be proposed ordinance 17 dash. This is an ordinance authorizing the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, to proceed with a not to exceed $2 million financing through the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority. Authorizing and ratifying the parish of Livingston's request of the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority to issue its revenue bond. Authorizing the borrowing by the parish of Livingston of the proceeds from the sale thereof. Approving and ratifying within certain parameters the terms of the sale of the bonds. Authorizing the form and execution of the loan agreement. Authorizing the form of and the execution of an agreement for the purchase of the bonds and ancillary financing documents, and otherwise providing with respect thereto. The public hearing will be on June the 8th at 6 p.m.
All right, need a motion? We need a
Do
motion.
we need a motion to introduce it, Sandy?
Please.
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. King. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item 10 is the parish president's report. There is no parish president's report. So, at this point, I'm going to move the addendum to item 10. That way the numbers will match up. The addendum is adopt a resolution to reduce the speed limits on Cuba Wheat Road from 20 miles an hour to 15 miles per hour located in Council District 6. I think this is something we previously on, Mr. Avery.
Yes, it's something we previously passed, but we had a clerical error. It was supposed to have been 20, 15, and it was put at 20.
How easy it is?
I'm not blaming anyone. But I just want, like to get that straightened out.
It can happen.
It can happen. We're human.
All right, got a motion?
That's a motion.
Motion by Mr. Avery.
Awesome.
Second by Mr. Harris. Any discussion from the audience? Any further discussion from the council? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item 11 is the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Mr. Harrell, who's here, got nothing there.
I think he's still eating.
He's hanging out with the parish president.
Back there.
Is he?
We're gonna be out of fried,
No ribs are gonna be left.
fried ribs will be gone.
Planning Commission recommendation, Mr. Sam.
Get comfortable.
Get comfortable.
First on the agenda is a number of lots on servitude, Mr. Thomas and Miss Tammy Beeson. This is in Miss Tab Lobell's area. A motion was made to approve the waiver but failed due to the lack of a second. So we come to the council for your recommendation.
Why was that? What do you think the holdback from the planning commission was to not get a second on it?
Well, I don't really know, other than we didn't get a second on the motion that was made. Mr. Joe might want to elaborate why, but I mean, I guess nobody felt like it was.
They just wanted us to decide.
I guess they wanted just to put you guys on the spot.
With the big lots down the gravel road.
That's okay.
The guy bought it to just have the property across from him.
You have a recommendation? What would you like to see
I'd
happen?
like to see it passed. I mean, I think.
Make a motion?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
No problem.
All right. So it was a motion by Tab, Mr. Lobell. Second by Mr. Talbot. Any discussion from the audience? Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item B.
Next on your agenda is, I think the agenda says servitude, but I think it's a right-of-way. Developer Livingston Parish Engineer Alvin Fairburn and Associates in Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the right-of-way revocation on West Caron Street and dedicate 15 foot of that back to the parish for the utilities back at the end of the street. So we can still have access to get in and out for utility work.
There's plenty of room back there. 15's all you're gonna need. All right.
I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Ard, second. Second by Mr. Lobell. Any discussion from the audience? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Yes, oh, you need to read by title, I'm sorry. Ms. Sandy.
This will be proposed ordinance 17-21. It's an ordinance revoking a 40-foot right-of-way between lots 28 and 38 Wildwood subdivision, second file, located in section 47, CS6 R3E, Livingston Parish, Louisiana, in favor of the landowner. Any more particularly described on the attached plat. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on June 8th. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we had a motion by Mr. Lovell and a second, a motion by Mr. Ard, second by Mr. Lovell. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item C.
Next on your agenda is a commercial development. This is Smoothie King preliminary site plan. This is also in Mr. Tracy Garlinghouse's area. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Smoothie King with a waiver to go into the rear building line. And this is because of, this is right next to, I have the engineer here, but it's right next to the,
There you go.
what you call a little ice cream shop there?
Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
And Demco lines are up above this thing, so they're trying to move this thing a little forward.
You can see I hope you can see, that shaded green area is actually the Demco servitude. We had to get permission from those guys to actually have part of our building under the servitude, and we got that letter and submitted it to Demco. So our only buildable area is that little triangle right there. So there is a house right next to us that is also, it's within 3 foot of that existing property line. We got about 40 foot from the actual roadway to that line right there. So we got a good distance. It's not a site problem. But this one truly is a hardship. If we can't get that rear building waived, then it's pretty much undevelopable.
Aren't they moving that line to the east a little bit right now? It looked like they was doing some work down there.
The architect was dealing with it.
Oh, okay.
And this is where it's right where it's split.
Where it splits and go around?
Right.
Okay. All right.
I love Smoothie King. Can't make a motion though, so.
I'll make the motion for you, Tracy. I like them too.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Avery. Any discussion from the audience? Any further discussion from the council? Ms. Sanders, call the vote.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Lovell.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Next on your agenda is another commercial development. This is River City Pest Control preliminary site plan. This is in Mr. Shane Mack's district. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for the River City Pest Control.
That's right. It's gonna be good. I'd like to make a motion that we approve that.
Motion by Mr. Matt, second. Second by Mr. Ard. Any discussion from the audience? Any further discussion from the council? Ms. Sanders, would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Lovell.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is also another commercial development. This is Old Zion Hill Baptist Church preliminary site plan. This is also in Mr. Shane Mack's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Old Zion Hill Baptist Church with a waiver to do limestone parking.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this with the waiver. Old Zion Hill Church is a wonderful church, and they have a lot of people going there. They have 2 services now, and they're trying to, build a new church.
I'll second
Do a
that.
good thing.
I'd like to say this about it. I was at the meeting, and I think it's going to be good with the waiver, but they're still in a later date wanting to asphalt or either concrete, whatever they can afford to do at
They
the
can afford
time.
it.
Sure, as they collect the
Thank you,
money.
Fred.
Right.
That's good.
Is it strictly, they're doing limestone because of a money situation?
Right.
Right.
Where, are they parking on an asphalt parking lot now?
But this is going to be it's going to be away from where it's at now.
There's some asphalt there, but sometimes they fill all that asphalt up, Yeah.
Which is a good thing. That's right.
Yeah, if you overflow and need a new one, that's a good thing.
Yep. The motion by Mr. Mack,
I'll say, well, John.
second by Mr. Watson.
That is correct.
Ms. Sandy, would you call the vote?
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sam.
Thank you, Ms. Sandy.
Thank you, Mr. Sam.
All right, item 13, we are now entering a public hearing. If anybody has anything about the items that we bring up, just raise your hand and be recognized, and we'll let you speak. We're going to do items 13, 14, and 15 together. Item 13 is a public hearing, and adoption of LP ordinance number 17-17 to declare certain movable property or equipment no longer needed for public purpose. Ms. Sandy, did you want to just do each one? You want me to read each one of them out? Okay, so
This is proposed ordinance 17-17. This is an ordinance to declare certain movable property, equipment no longer needed for public purposes, provide for its sale by internet sales and/or public auction, and provide for terms of sale.
item 14 is a public hearing adoption of LP ordinance number 17-18, amend section 13-67.1, commercial development buffer zones. Ms. Sandy?
This is proposed ordinance 17-18. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 13, Planning and Development, Section 13-67.1, Commercial Development Buffer Zone, Part C of the Code of Ordinances and for the Parish of Livingston.
Item 15, public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 17-19, add penalty for violations to Chapter 13, Planning and Development. Sandy?
This is an ordinance to amend and reenact Chapter 13, Article 1 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish by adding a section, Section 13-3, to be titled Penalty for Violations of this chapter, as more fully set out herein, and removing Section 13-69, Violation and Penalty, of Article 4, Division 4 of this chapter.
Now into public discussion. Anyone in the public have any comment on any of these proposed ordinances? Public discussion is now closed. Item 13,
I'd like to make a motion.
motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. King.
That's fine.
Ms. Sandy, would you call the vote?
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Item 14, public hearing for adoption of LP ordinance number 17-18. Any discussion from the council? If not, I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Ard, second. Second by Mr. Lobel. Ms. Sandy, would you call the vote?
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Item 15, public hearing adoption of LP ordinance number 17-19. Any discussion from the council? If not, I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Mack. Ms. Sandy, would you call the vote?
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Okay. Item 16, board reappointments, Livingston Parish Library Board. I think we have four, sorry. Mr. Wascom, did you?
Yes, out of District 4, Dub Springs, serving on the Livingston Parish Library Board is Miss Kathy DeGeneres. Her husband was Lloyd DeGeneres. He just recently passed away. And Miss Kathy was a teacher in our school system for many years, and there's just, she has a real heart for education, and I think she's a good asset to that board. And since her husband's passed away, she's continued to serve on the board. I think it does her good, and it does the residents of this parish good as well. So I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Miss Kathy DeGeneres to the
I'll
Livingston
second
Parish
that motion.
Motion by Mr. Wascom, second by Mr. King. Any discussion from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Talbot, did you have something?
I guess when the agenda came out, initially, I knew that John had one on. I didn't realize mine was up.
Understood.
So I hadn't even talked to Ms. Henson. I'm gonna give her a call this week and visit with her. I'm just gonna defer mine.
Mr. Harris?
I'm
Same?
like Mr. Taylor,
All right,
same thing.
fair enough.
Did our clerk not inform you?
Item B, Recreation District 5, Board reappointments. Mr. Ard?
Yes, Mr. JoJo Welder's time has expired, and he said he's done. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Darrell Jones in his spot.
I'll second that.
All right, motion to appoint Mr. Darrell Jones by Mr. Ard, second by Mr. Mack, sorry. Any discussion from the audience? Not. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, item 17, amend section 9-223, identification of caskets, interment, promulgation of rules, or introduction of ordinance. Introduction of ordinance, Mr. Avery.
Yeah, what it is, we got in certain parts of the parish, we were very low lying, and it's water, and some people don't want to be buried below ground. And I'd like to send it back to Mr. Mark to tweak it, and let him make his recommendation to us in 2 weeks.
We have some folks here that would like to speak on this as well.
Okay.
I've told them that they've had a few minutes, so y'all want to come up? Mr. Alford?
Just on this ordinance,
Please, I'm sorry. Please state your name
Alfred David,
and your address.
17410 Cypress Lane, Killian.
Okay, Mr. Alford, go ahead.
On these vaults being above ground and all, y'all passed the ordinance on the 23rd of March to where all vaults would have to be 18 inches under the ground, which is not feasible for a vault. I mean, people like in my situation, I've been working on a cemetery plot since 2000 to try to, a little bit here, a little bit there. We buy a vault and we put it in our respective place and all, and then when the time comes, they just open it up and put you in there. But if you put it below ground, you can't do that. You can't buy it ahead of time. They can't put it 18 inches below ground and go dig it back up when it comes time to bury it, you know? And this is a way of life in southern Louisiana, is vaults. I mean, I went through just District 8, St. Margaret, that has 250 vaults. Moore Falls Cemetery has 300. And because of a 1,000-year flood, to change it now to have them put underground, I don't think is really feasible. I have two that I ordered in December from Ricardo Vault Service Company. He got sick, he went in the hospital and all. He called me last week and said my 2 vaults were ready, but he couldn't put them in because the ordinance had been passed. So I'm stuck with this. A suggestion that I could make to the council, I mean, if they want to do something because of a 1,000-year flood, is maybe pass a bill to whenever somebody's buried, $100 tax, and put that in escrow for damages done to cemeteries for any catastrophe. But a 1,000-year flood, well, if you're doing that in 1,000 years, you'd have over $1 billion in an account. Do you understand what I'm saying?
But I don't
mean,
think
it would be more feasible than this plan of putting them underneath the ground. I mean, this is not. I went to the funeral home, and the lady over there told me that she's already had one case with it where somebody had passed away, and they had a slab at the cemetery where they put their vaults, and the whole family was there. But as they passed away, they'd buy a vault and put there. But they couldn't do it, so they had to bust the concrete up in the slab to bury the person underground.
I think the way we're moving, Mr. Alford, is that we're gonna send it back to Mr. Mark, and we're gonna come up with a device of some kind to where you will, the thinking is you will be able to be on top of the ground.
Right.
But there will be some kind of restraint that will keep the lid, not only the vault to the ground, but also the lid for the vault. I've talked to Mr. Mark about it, and he said, look, doesn't matter to me as long as they're not floating off. And we just got to keep them in place, because then it becomes a burden on the parish.
Well, no, my wife passed away 4 years ago, and the vault that I have there, they did seal it. They put a black glue all around it to seal it down and all. Mine was sealed.
And I think that from talking to people, even that glue over years will,
Right.
they'll kind of deteriorate. So there's something that will anchor it to the ground. And it'll have to be the lid and the vault. But I understand, like Mr. Urban, he's got the thing you just described with the concrete poured,
Right.
He's got that.
Right.
And so he's got to have some way to be on that slab and be able to restrain it. And I'm all for that. I know Jeff's all for it. That's the direction we're going to be trying to move.
Well, that's a better way to go than not having them at all. I mean, this is a poor man's way of being buried above ground. I mean,
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate all the conversations you and I have had and everything. So that's the way that.
and the only other thing is, if this is grandfathered in, like the one that I have already existing, the funeral home told me that would be grandfathered in. There was no restrictions on it. Well, like I said, I had 2 that I'd ordered in December, and now that they're ready, I want to find out, would these be grandfathered in also? And if they are, could I get a letter from the council stating that, because that way when it comes time for somebody to be buried, they don't have to run around saying, what we going to do? We don't have no proof of this,
Yeah.
That it's my hope that there won't have to be those letters, but there will be some criteria to where it's going to be restrained. So it'll be, those will be your choices, the restraint or the 18 inches of dirt.
Okay.
So that's the direction we're moving. So, but like I say, I appreciate all the conversations and all the going around and counting at all the cemeteries. I know
Well, like
you put some time
I went
in.
around looking, just in your district alone, there's over 1,000. And in the cemeteries that I made, they got some little cemeteries, just back in the woods, some places that got nothing involved, and,
The intent there was to prevent our loved ones' human remains from floating away during any flood. But we're definitely going to go back and take another look at that and see if we can't work something out to satisfy all parties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thanks, Tracy.
All right,
I need to make a motion.
I have something I want to say first. I worked in the funeral industry for probably 15 years. And speaking with the owners of the funeral home that I work for, which is Seal, and we had discussions about burying things. They long ago quit burying vaults at the ground level, which is above ground, simply because this is a problem that has been. It hadn't just happened for this flood. It's been a problem for pretty much since they put them in. These vaults, by design from the manufacturer, are designed to go below ground. They're designed that way. They're designed to have the dirt, the weight of the dirt sitting on top of the vault. That the vaults have like a Zatari type glue on there. All of them have that, and it locks the lid in place. It being above ground, that it doesn't have the weight of the soil on top of it to put it in place, and the glue tends to dry out as well. When it's below ground, it kind of stays moist, which keeps it pliable and keeps the seal working. To give you an idea, and I've discussed this with most of the council members, Evergreen Memorial, which is the funeral home behind Seal Funeral Home in Dental Springs, has over 2,000 graves in it. Now, one of them is above ground, not one. There's probably 5 to 6 foot of water sitting on top of that cemetery, and not one casket floated, not one, because they were all sitting 18 inches below ground with the dirt sitting on top of them. according to them, because the seal was the one that was contracted to reinter all the caskets that floated during the flood. Every single one of them was above ground. Every one. Not one casket that they reinterred was below ground with dirt sitting on top of it. It has been something that's been practiced, but it's not a good practice to put it above ground, and you're just asking for it to continue. I know General Springs Memorial, they said they had, you can drive by there and you can just see graves for, I don't know how many's in there. I'm amazed that they could put that many graves in that one spot. And every one that floated, that floated up was above ground. Every one. Not one that was below ground in that cemetery floated up. I think this is a good ordinance. I know that it's painful to change, you want to be able to help. I don't really have a problem grandfathering people in. I don't like that idea, but I understand that people have money spent. They have, they have the marble copings or concrete, and I don't want. I would be okay to some degree granting them a waiver to continue the uniformity of their burial plots. But I think to change this ordinance, and this is a good ordinance that we introduced. It's good across the board, in my opinion. I think that it would be, this is a good step forward, and I think it would be reckless to change it. So that's just my opinion.
I think if we have to come up with something for the ones that are grandfathered in, some type of restraint system, you got it figured out. Why not let the other folks take advantage of that as well? We got to come up with something for them. They need some kind of restraint. So
which ones are you talking about?
The ones that would be grandfathered in, let's say where you have a slab poured, and the people that already have a slab poured, already have the vault sitting there, they need to have some kind of restraint on them, I would guess. So if we're going to come up with a design for something like that, and I've been talking to some other funeral homes as well, and I agree, Tracy, that probably the safest, best thing to do is do the dirt. And I realized, I didn't know till I started digging into this, that the vaults were designed to be underground. I didn't know that.
Well,
but I will say, if we got to come up with something for the other folks, once we get it figured out.
My opinion is that then you introduce that. You don't send it back.
I think we come up with. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if you come up with an idea, and I know they don't make a vault that's above ground.
That's right.
They do not make one, according to what I've been told.
You can build a crypt to be above ground, which is what you see in New Orleans all the time. Those family crypts, and that's what they're designed for. I mean, so I think we have a good ordinance. I don't want to revisit this ordinance, send it back to Mark, and if you got something you need to change, and introduce a new ordinance or something to adjust it. But this ordinance is a good ordinance in place. And I believe if people want to be buried above ground, then they can build a crypt and they can be buried above ground. I don't think that's an issue, but I think if it's designed to go in the ground, it needs to go in the ground.
Well, and if you want to be uniform with someone, like you want it to aesthetically to match, and you don't have a vault there already, you can bury it below ground and then put another lid on top to match.
Isn't that doubling your money?
Well, it's just a lid, so it's not doubling your money. It's the lid. And look, here's the thing: these things are designed to be below ground.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so anything, and it's not just the buoyancy. Those lids, that concrete isn't meant to be exposed to sunlight, so it gets more brittle. It gets brittle over time, and the ceiling becomes brittle. I mean, does some of them not float? Do some of them not come up? Certainly,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, if you want to make a change, then be specific on the change and just do that. I don't think we should send it back.
Well, how does that work then? But if we approve this tonight, then are we going to amend that? Powell?
Well, you either need a motion to adopt it tonight, which could be amended later, or a motion to refer it back to the administration. There's no motion on the floor present.
This ordinance is in place already. It's been
this is
adopted in place.
Yes.
They
This is
want to
to-
revisit,
Revisit it, I'm sorry.
they want to revisit this ordinance. And so
I see.
we don't really need to revisit this ordinance. If they want to make a change, they need to introduce a new ordinance. to make the
Exactly, that's
change.
what, yeah.
But
There's
my
nothing to
deal
adopt
is
tonight.
if something's designed to be, if it's designed to go in the ground, it needs to go in the ground.
I understand.
And if you want to build something above ground, then
I disagree.
well,
We got 1,000 of these things
Yeah.
in District 8 already, so that we're gonna have to, we should come up with something
So what do we need to do to
that works
revisit
to
that
hold them
part?
down. And if we gotta come up with something
Well, I
for
think
the old
Mark-
ones,
Mark can help.
it'll work for the new ones.
If there's a viable solution, he could bring an amendment for the council to consider.
Right.
In other
Okay.
words, to allow for a variance of some type or allow for specific solution to it and just put that in the amendment. So there's nothing for the council to act on tonight. There's no motion ready.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Ms. Alpha.
He was saying that he was designed to go underground. I may be begging to differ with you, but I can take you to some cemeteries right now where these vaults have been there for 100 years, from the 1800s.
Yes, sir. And those vaults were designed to go underground.
But these were above ground,
Yes, sir.
and they've been there since the 1800s, and they haven't moved. I mean,
but
and we're talking about a disaster here with a flood. If you really want to get down to it, you see when a hurricane comes through, at St. Margaret over there, they have what do you call them, the big thing, the mausoleum? If a hurricane comes through here and hits that mausoleum, you're going to have caskets all over Livingston Parish. So, does this mean that we're not going to have that neither no more because of a natural
Well, that's
disaster?
what you're talking about.
This just ain't adding up. I mean, you're getting in the way people get buried and everything. This is more or less like religious and everything. I mean, you're getting church and state involved here, and I don't think this is right. It's not. I mean, we put vaults above ground because, like I said, we can afford to do this a little at a time. You go putting them under the ground, you can't go say, well, I want to buy one now and I may use it 10 years now, because it ain't going to work like that. I mean, I want to be buried above ground. I don't want to be in a vault that's covered with dirt and the water's going to get in and slush and all that. I mean, when you get to it, you look in the real book, back in, Jesus was buried in a vault. He wasn't buried underground. And what y'all trying to do is you getting with church and state and religion, and this is the way I want my family to be buried, and I've been working on this for 20 years to get it a little here, a little there. Now all of a sudden you say, hey, you can't bury your family like that, you got to go under the ground. I don't think this is right. And like I said, you said they're made to go underground. I can show them to you that's over in the cemetery that's been there since the 1800s.
Yes, sir.
And there wasn't nobody told them that it had to be underground, and I don't think y'all should be telling us now that it should be going underground, because like I said, this is my religion. I mean, this is what I want. And now then all of a sudden, the council, this is church and state, I don't think you should be doing this. I really don't.
Didn't we do this at the behest of the state and the Homeland Security Director?
I think this ordinance is going to match state ordinance.
State ordinance is what we're going
I
by.
have state ordinance right here. The only thing the state ordinance says in here is that they want the funeral homes to make a metal name tag to be installed on the casket. There's nothing to say that it has to be on the ground.
Is that the new one?
That's the one that they gave me over here. I have it right here.
That's not the new one. That's the current one.
That's the one that
But
they
the
gave me here 2
state
weeks
is
ago.
looking at changing those regulations.
Okay, well, this is the one they gave me 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
right
that's
here,
what we
dog.
talked about in,
So the guy from the state came and commented and
told
complimented
us
our
what it's gonna
ordinance.
be. He said what to change it to, because it was coming down the line from the state, and we wanted to match the states.
Can we make a motion and send it back to Mark or not?
It's not necessary.
It's already an
It's
enacted
already an
ordinance.
ordinance.
You can get Shane to call a committee meeting, and y'all can at the committee, ordinance committee, make an amendment and submit it.
Yeah, that'd be the way it's gotta be done. But this is the law right now.
But like I said, I don't think y'all should be doing this. I really don't. And if it's a state that I gotta go see, well, maybe I could contact the state or whatever to
You can go to the ordinance committee.
uh-huh.
If If it goes back to the ordinance committee to recommend a change, you can go to the ordinance committee
Here,
here.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
when they
if
have
it goes back to them, because, like I said, need to get somebody involved in this. I mean, some people say, look, when I die, just throw me in a ditch and throw dirt on me. I'm not like that. That's not what I want. Some people do, that's different.
It's a lot of people like you.
Yeah, and I want to be respected, and I want my mortal to remain respected, and I don't want it to be going to the ground and what's going to be slop and mud and all of that. I don't think it's right. I mean, the council can make votes all they want and say, yeah, let's put him on the ground. I don't think it's right.
Mr. Alfred, can I say something? I think at this particular moment in time, the law exists. You can apply for a waiver to the council, and if the council agrees, they can grant you a waiver because you've already began to spend money and to go that route. If the council agrees to give you a waiver, they can do that, so you can proceed, being that you've already started. We are going to take another look and see if we can't work something out to satisfy all parties. We are definitely going to do that. The ordinance committee is going to do that. We've already talked about it. What is it going to be? We're not sure, because they don't currently design anything to secure the vault to the ground or secure the lid of the vault to the vault. So it's going to be a difficult challenge. But I'm telling you now, we're willing to come up with something to make it work. And so there's no real need to take any type of votes tonight. We're just going to, Jeff wants to, he can put it on the agenda for next meeting.
That's like we got this letter from St. Margaret in Springfield.
Right.
And 1,000-year flood didn't touch
Actually,
their
that's
cemetery.
right there in Albany.
It's in Albany. It's the one right there by my wife's church where she.
Everyone that signed it's all right people.
Yeah, your people. But it never flooded. It probably won't ever flood.
But St. Margaret
So if they
had
wanted to ask a
250
waiver
votes.
on that particular cemetery, would that be possible?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, you got to state your name,
Is this
sir.
consider everybody that has vaults?
Sir.
Or is this, or are you talking to Mr. Davis?
Sir,
Just state your name and address.
Ray Chehagan,
and your address.
Ray Chehagan, 117-423 Cypress Lane, Key.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I don't quite understand where y'all are coming from. First thing, I don't think 10 or 12 men have a right to decide for the biggest majority of us out here that spend thousands of dollars, and y'all trying to make us spend more by changing all that around and doing it y'all's way. You understand where I'm coming from? And you're talking about giving Mr. David a waiver. What about all the rest of the people that's got vaults on top of the ground? My wife passed away 2 years ago. I've got, and my daughter and my son-in-law, we got 4 vaults down. My wife's in one of them. The vault is 8 inches in the ground, and I got 4 to 6 inches of concrete slab poured around it and in between that. That cost me a lot of money. And now y'all saying I gotta go in there and bust all this stuff up if something
No, sir.
happens?
No, sir. That waiver was
Your
for
grandfather did.
anybody if you've already. It wasn't just for
Your vault's
you can go
established.
apply for a waiver.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me say something else about the strapping it down with whatever way y'all want it. Are y'all gonna bring up some kind of specifications to show how y'all want these?
Well, that's going to be the
vaults?
difficult part.
Yes, sir.
Well, what I was thinking, I don't see where it'd be that difficult. Okay, I'm on a slab like 4 to 6 inches thick. The vaults are like 8 to 10 inches apart. Just roughly guessing about the.
Sir,
Can't you take?
this isn't something this has to go to the ordinance
Okay, I'm just
committee.
making a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Can't you take a 4 to 6 inch, say a stainless steel strap, bore holes down through that cement and run bolts down through there and strap them bolts down? Where are they gonna go? They're not going nowhere.
That's exactly
That's what
the
we're
direction
talking
that we headed, something along those lines.
All right, well, I hope y'all come up with something because,
We are.
hey, we ain't got a whole bunch of money. You can't just go out there and just bust all this stuff up and redo it just because 10 or 12 people say you can't have it like this.
We're not suggesting that at all. We're not suggesting that at
All
all.
right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Urban.
All right. So what I was
You
asking.
got one more.
Oh, you got one more?
Yes, sir.
My name is Urban Fontenot, 11450 Orderbrook Drive, Monticello. My situation's a little bit different than what we talked about. I had bought my plots in Carter Cemetery 20 years ago. 7 years ago, I bought a granite tomb, and I had my slab already put in the ground. And when I pass away, or my wife, then we'll put the tomb on it. That tomb is not designed to go in the ground. And I understand about the strapping. I have no problem with the strapping, and I know y'all gonna work something out. But what if I go home and get killed in a car wreck and I'm gonna get buried in 2 days? What's gonna happen?
I think that what you built is a tomb and it's designed to be.
Yeah, it's granite tomb.
It doesn't apply.
I'm good.
It doesn't apply to
And
this
so
situation.
if this happens, I get killed going home, now you tell me I can be buried on top of the ground in that tomb.
Let's hope you don't get killed going
Yeah, please, yeah.
My situation is this: how is the funeral home gonna know that I can be buried on top of that ground in that tomb? You gonna give me a letter tonight saying
Well, the
I
funeral,
can? I mean, I'm just trying to get an
the
answer.
funeral
so I
home,
know.
if that was unfortunately occurred, they would inquire to the parish. You have to get a burial permit and things along this. They would
Correct.
inquire to the parish, and I mean they would tell them.
They would know what to tell.
Yeah, you
And
can't do
yours
that.
is definitely designed, it's designed to be above ground.
Yeah, that's not what this.
And I have no problem strapping it down once y'all decide on how we're
I
gonna
don't
do this.
think that tomb's gonna go a whole lot of ways.
Well, they had one in Carter and it didn't move at all.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't move at all.
I
But
think
possibility it could.
It could, anything can happen, you know, and
Miss-
we hope it doesn't.
Mr. Chris, can we decide or whatever to put the ordinance on hold until we come up with?
It's already in place.
I think it's signed, it's the law of the parish.
It's stamped.
Well,
it's
you
there.
couldn't just do that by a motion. You could, if you had an ordinance ready to go tonight, you could introduce something
So
to
we just have to
suspend
send
it.
it
Let's
back to
do
you
this.
guys, Shane, and.
Let's just go to the ordinance committee and come up with some kind of solution that I think that would make a lot of people happy. And then bring that recommendation and maybe amend it at a future meeting.
And in addition to that, if somebody already has a slab poured,
Right.
they've already spent the money to do that, I think this council is willing to grant that waiver immediately, so they do not have to bust up that kind of thing.
I think you're right. That's
Yeah.
a non-issue. They just need to we just need to make sure the parish knows what to tell them.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Can
let's
somebody
move
take an
on.
action to get in touch with somebody from the parish Monday morning? Is that possible?
They not working Monday.
Oh, Tuesday, that's right.
Who do you contact?
I'm gonna be in
But
Call the permit office, huh? Tracy, who should we?
No, I think you have to call the sheriff's office, don't you? Don't they have to call the sheriff's office? They need
yes,
to
I'll
do
handle that Tuesday morning. I'll figure it out.
There you go.
All right.
So,
Thank you, Tab.
so no further action on 17?
Okay, yeah.
All right. Item 18, amend chapter 13, planning and development by adding section 46.1, prohibitions and restrictions of use, introduction of an ordinance. Mr. Wasco.
Thank you, Mr. Grillinghouse. We've all looked at the ordinance. I think we talked about it at the ordinance committee, referred it to the parish council meeting at the last meeting. So tonight is just an introduction of that ordinance. And I think most of you are well aware of what it is. It's just about putting temporary housing. And Mr. Chris Moody had, I believe, didn't you have some input on rewriting
Yeah,
it
we,
to kind of
cleared up
clarify
some
some
of
of the things I had that were about putting temporary housing in a named subdivision.
Right.
And so I'd like to,
Basically, if a development had went through planning and the development was designed and intended for custom-built homes, you would not be allowed to place a mobile home inside that subdivision on a lot within that subdivision, once this passes. Right?
so,
That's what I get it.
so my motion's just to introduce it, I think, and
Yes.
That's right.
Your motion?
yes, my motion.
Motion by Mr. Wasson, second by Mr. Harris. Any discussion from the audience? Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is David Frugier. I live at 30560 Lamar in Maryland subdivision. Been a homeowner for 10 years. In that subdivision, and now there's a mobile home placed in there. I think it's going to be intended for a rental unit. The subdivision was clearly planned out in the 60s, dedicated for site-built homes. We don't have a homeowners association. It's a very old neighborhood. Modest housing. The city of Denham Springs has an ordinance to keep mobile homes out of the city. There's nothing parish-wide to keep mobile homes out of these dedicated subdivisions. Improve streets, lights, sewage, improve subdivisions. And I think they should. I think it's the duty for the tax base of the parish, for the investment that the people here, the residents of this parish, are placing in this parish. They should be helped in any way y'all can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Was that particular place in Marydale, was that put in as an emergency trailer, or was it put in under a regular trailer permit? Does anybody know? I'm just trying to figure out
How it got there.
It's not for temporary housing.
It's not a FEMA trailer. I mean, it looks
Well, I
like,
mean, I understand, but we waived a bunch of rules to let trailers get in during the 18-month period, but that doesn't mean they became permanent. I'm just trying, do you think this is a permanent deal? Chris, this ordinance is that trailer's gonna be there whether we pass this ordinance or not. Am I correct?
Wait a minute, will it affect ones that are already there? Well, it was,
There are none there but that one. That's it.
right.
They said they had.
Because it doesn't say that it's grandfathers you in, but
Anything yet.
Oh, so it's not permitted yet?
No, it's not, it's permitted to be placed, but not electric, sewage and all that. So would it stop it if we pass that tonight?
I say yes.
I say it
I
probably
say
could.
yes too.
But we can't, it's an introduction.
We can't pass it
We got
tonight.
30 days.
We got to introduce.
No, we got 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Right,
Yeah, but
2
we
weeks.
was on the 8th, it's like,
Well, that's all you can do is try to get it in place, so.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's move.
thank you for,
Anything further from the audience? All right. We had a motion.
motion.
Second. Ms. Sandy, call the vote, please.
We got to read back.
You gotta read it.
Oh, you gotta read it. I'm sorry.
Given a number? This
Yes.
will be proposed ordinance 17-22. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 13, planning and development, by adding a section 13-46.1, prohibitions and restrictions of use of the code of ordinances entered for the parish of Livingston. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on June the 8th.
Chris, can we ask permitting to hold up issuing permits for a 2-week period on a specific piece of property while we get an ordinance in place, or is that?
They will only do it if it's in your book of ordinances. I'm not sure they're just gonna
And
do it.
even if they did give the permit and put the mobile home there, they're gonna have to remove it.
I don't
be foolish.
sure you will. That's
Only if
what,
they fight them on civil and it's in their covenants.
This is saying that you can't do it.
Well, we made it
against
as,
the law.
Once it's already there.
well, we made it to try to be as enforceable as possible. Could they use that as a defense? Maybe so. But,
Well, my initial point was, we will at least stop any more from happening.
right, I'm
Not just in that subdivision, but throughout the
I'm
parish.
just
So,
saying, this is going under the section that we just passed tonight to increase the violation of breaking subdivision rules and development rules. And I'm saying that this will be in violation of that ordinance, and that each violation is subject to a $500 fine per day.
But I don't think you can retroactively punish somebody for something they've done. I mean,
That there wasn't a law against.
if that trailer's hooked up and permitted prior to this ordinance being, I don't think you can go back on them, is what I'm saying. Unless we got permitting to not issue the permit till the 8th.
Wouldn't it depend on what the person, I mean, if it's a temporary permit,
It's not, and they're talking in their case, they want to put it there and then have it,
It's rental.
it's a
It's
permanent.
a rental
Yeah.
thing.
So
but
wouldn't
still
it make
should be
it
how the
commercial?
permit was issued to them when they brought the trailer in.
Well, actually, you don't have to have a permit to move it. The mover's got to get a permit from the parish. They can put it wherever they want, but until the permitting, they bring the elevation and they get their electrical and everything else, it's not a permitted thing. So there's technically no violation in moving it to a piece of property, but you gotta get the permit before you can hook it up.
And light it up, right?
Yeah, it says unlawful for a person to reside in or use a residence or rent it out. I mean, once they move in, it's gonna be against the law for them to do it. I mean, to me, it does affect all of those mobile homes. Unless we change the wording, it does affect all those mobile homes that's currently residing in subdivisions they're not supposed to be.
Okay. Well, maybe, hopefully that's the
That's
case.
like, Brown Road is a prime example. They're wanting to put in a trailer park there.
They want to resub, right?
They want to resell in 2 areas over there. And this will help stop that because it is a named subdivision.
Right.
It's Brown Road Acres is what it is.
Right.
Well,
So,
for what it's worth, if there's a trailer in a neighborhood before we pass this ordinance, then
It's gonna be hard to get it moved out.
I don't think we should. It's there before the law actually was made into effect. I mean, that is retroactively punishing someone, even though, does it have a,
There are plenty of places within this parish to put mobile homes in there at welcome. What this ordinance is about is trying to prevent them from being where it wasn't designed to be. Look, if y'all want to go that route, that's fine, but this particular wording does not allow for that.
Well, I think we all agree with you. We all agree with you, Shane, on what we're trying to do, but I think what we're all concerned about is that trying to retroactively enforce something.
It's an enforcement problem.
Which is because we talked about the gun thing and everything else. To pass an ordinance to specifically stop something, you know what I'm talking about? Probably won't get that one thing stopped. Now, if we get this in place before that thing gets permitted, then it probably won't ever be able to be permitted. But, it's just it'll be a race against time. We'll just have to see what happens.
So we just have to do this tonight and then hope we can move forward and.
I'm sure.
At least you can move forward from that point.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
I would like to say this about the trailer that was moved there. It was flooded. I'm not sure where it came from. It was flooded, moved into the neighborhood, gutted on site, and is being rebuilt. The property owner who owns the lot owns a home somewhere down Dunn Road, so it's not going to be used as their primary residence. So I assume they're fixing it up, a flooded trailer, for a rental property.
Yeah.
And
He's still working on it. We should have time.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to get it permitted.
Well, I guess you could pass a resolution saying we have a moratorium for permitting any additional mobile homes in named subdivision. So you could pass a motion tonight.
We have to unanimously lift the agenda to do that tonight?
Well, I think you probably do it underneath this agenda item, because it kind of goes hand in hand with the ordinance that you've already introduced, so it kind of beefs up.
You want to introduce a resolution putting a moratorium on something that falls within those?
I'm satisfied with just introducing this one tonight. I mean, because I don't think that guy's going to be moving in that.
Well, I mean,
But we do both.
we could do both. We could introduce this
Why don't you
ordinance.
make the motion?
I'll make a motion to introduce a resolution to put a moratorium on
Permitting of-
permitting any trailers in named subdivisions for a
All right. So
3-week period, and then
And
we'll
then
have to get this.
I'll second that.
Well, thanks, sir.
Let's be specific in that.
You don't need to lift the agenda?
Well, I mean, it goes hand in hand with the enforcement of this ordinance that you're introducing, so I think it falls.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get a, John made the initial motion, but he's uncomfortable with that, so can we get?
No, I wasn't uncomfortable.
No, with the
Are you sure?
with the addition, with the moratorium.
No, it's a separate motion. This will be a
Okay, so we'll do two
resolution.
separate ones. Okay, so we have any further discussion? So we'll do the first one. We'll do the first one. Motion by Mr. Wascom,
Second.
second by Mr. Harris.
Oh, you mean on this?
Just on the introduction.
Ordinance.
On the introduction.
To introduce the ordinance. My motion still stands for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Lebel.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
All right, should we vote now or should we?
Now we make a resolution.
Well, I think you're safe with the agenda, but you feel like you need to, it doesn't hurt.
All right, need a motion to lift the agenda.
I'll make a motion to lift the agenda.
Motion by Mr. Talbert, second by Mr. Averett. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, agenda is lifted.
I'd like to make a resolution to put a moratorium on the introduction or the issuance of permits on trailers in named subdivisions that would fall within this ordinance for a period of 3 weeks.
Motion by Mr. Talbert,
Second.
second by Mr. Ard. Any discussion from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
All right.
I need a motion to go back to.
Thank you.
Motion to go back to
Motion by Mr. Ard,
agenda.
Go back to the agenda.
second by Mr. Lobel. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Item 19. Name road, Rue Orleans, located off of Highway 190 in Council District 9. Mr. Mack.
Yeah, some constituents of mine, there's an unnamed road and they want the road named. And so they came up with the name Rue Orleans. And I'd like to make a motion that we name that unnamed road Rue Orleans.
Hey, do we have to ask the 911 if there's another road like that?
Yeah, they do.
They already did that. Oh, that's good?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got a letter from them.
Cool.
Motion by Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Ard.
Oh.
Any discussion in the audience?
Letter from Lawrence.
Any opposition to Rue Orleans? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I think I've seen that road somewhere though.
Item 20.
It's a new order.
Establishment of rules and prosecution of property owners of rental properties in non-compliance of grass, weeds, brush, debris, and trash and
I don't have
pavement.
a paper for that.
Introduction of an ordinance by Mr. R.C. Bubba Harris.
Yes, sir. I know in my district and probably in a lot of other districts throughout this parish, have a lot of rental properties that the people aren't keeping up. They letting debris just pile up in the yard. They never mow the grass or anything like that. And if they don't want to do it, I would like to put that responsibility back on the property owner.
But doesn't the ordinance already say that?
Do we have that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at this with the, seeing if it needed to be beefed up. It really applies to people that rent property, and the owner is responsible, and that whole ordinance is triggered by the complaint process, and ultimately, the lien can be placed on the property owner. So I mean, ultimately, it falls on the property owner. So I just think, we have so many of these properties that I don't think you have the enforcement people and the resources necessary to go out and do them, but there's ordinances there, I think, to satisfy your concern, Mr. Harris. We need to make sure we do a better job of enforcing it.
Can we appoint someone to enforce it?
Well, the current ordinance says the sheriff or the Department of Public Works can enforce it. If you wanted to, you could amend the ordinance to give somebody else the authority. If you like, we'll work on an amendment. Did you tell me once before that Mr. Harrell's department would be willing to help enforce?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So he's going to go out and mow the grass?
No, but he's gonna have it.
I want a picture of that.
Oh, that was funny. It was a lot of fun.
The question is.
Where's the Mark Carroll when you need him?
I'd love to see Mark push the wall.
Mark, you watching TV tonight, right?
The question is, we have these ordinances, but we don't have the resources to do it. And we don't have the ability to hire the manpower because of the budget restraints. So my question is, how can we make the people fund it? Meaning, for example, there's obviously enough pieces of property out there to keep one guy busy. So my question is, how do you generate a situation where those people that require us to have this employee to go around and police them, how do we make them pay for him because they don't do what they're supposed to do?
Well, there's a mechanism within the current ordinance to do that, but if they're not around or they've abandoned the property, then there's no one really that we can make pay it. The ultimate thing is you put a lien against the property, and if it ever gets sold,
then you got to fund it on the front end.
Right.
There's no process for us
Taxpayer money.
There's no process for us to enforce a lien like that and make it happen.
Not in the short term, no, sir.
This was also a problem that Chuck Benson had too.
Right, it's the same
ordinance. Same ordinance that we've had for about a year and a half.
No one to actually account for the money.
Or collect it. Then you can put a lien, then you have to wait till they sell it and then, or lose it, or.
The premise of this is very well thought out, but it's just, in every district, we've got places that people just won't clean up their mess.
The problem is that this is where reality gets in the way of ideology.
Oh, that's true. Right, that's right.
You have a very good ordinance.
We just got to figure out a way to fund and get an enforcement in place.
Well, and that's what I want to do. I'm gonna get with the sheriff, Mark, whoever.
Get you a committee of them together and let's figure out how to make it happen.
For example, let's say it, we got enough work to do already, I can't believe say it. What's the possibility of having it so that a councilman could go in their district and issue somebody a cleanup order?
Somebody hook shut him up.
Trust me. But in reality, that's basically what you end up calling. You end up calling DPW and complaining about somebody or you call Chuck at the permit office and you say, I've got this house that nobody picks up the trash, and then they send somebody out to start a file on it and take pictures, and then nobody follows up.
It usually sits there, right?
It usually just sits there, but.
I don't think, if the question is, could you appoint yourself as go out and hand out the citations, et cetera, I don't think you could do that.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
as an individual councilman, you have zero authority. You have to
Thank you for saying that. I would say Bubba's area would be clean, all I'm gonna tell you, if he could go issue the citation.
Right.
But we would need to make all of Livingston Parish a gun-free zone before we go do this.
There you're right.
I'm
pretty
So you're gonna get with the,
yeah,
try to get some way to.
Yeah, we may well work with some language to add Mr. Harrell's office to the enforcement part of the ordinance. And in the long term, you may want to try to put something in the budget to have a couple of people to go out and provide the service, and also follow up on getting the liens filed, et cetera, and collection, so.
All right.
Well, since you mentioned the firearm-free zone there, Shooter, with segue. Item 21, discuss and adopt an ordinance to establish Livingston Parish governmental buildings as a firearm-free zone and prohibit firearms from being carried in the building. Mr. Matt.
Yes, this ordinance here is just to make it clear as a bell that there will be no firearms allowed in the courthouse building, period.
Except for police officers.
Except for, that's right, except for those that should have firearms, or law enforcement.
So this would supersede a concealed carry permit, is what you're telling me?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Any firearm, period.
They already have
Open
the
carry
metal
or
detectors
concealed.
in place. They just need, I think we just need the actual ordinance that says you
Right,
can't
because
bring it in.
Because people have contested that.
Yes. So.
I don't like it, but I understand.
It only applies to the courthouse.
Only to the courthouse.
Went to the courthouse, and it's actually, that's right. The address is actually in here.
Okay.
Any discussion from the audience?
So it doesn't apply to this building?
No, just the courthouse.
Just courthouse.
I mean, it could.
Maybe we should put.
This one doesn't.
No, I can't.
Miss Sandy,
putting
Miss
fines
Sandy
on
made this
people who don't
ordinance
wish
so
it.
that it could be amended, and if another building wanted to be included, you could add it as an amendment.
Okay.
So I'm asking a question. So the current courthouse now, they're stopping people from entering in with guns, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because they send
Knives or anything.
They send everyone through the metal detector and they can't come in. And someone is contesting that
Yes, sir.
because they're questioning that they don't have the right to do that without this council's.
Right, the state law allows it.
Yeah.
Unless it's been declared as a firearm-free zone, and we haven't done that.
Right, so evidently someone has made the decision at the courthouse to start doing it before, when the courthouse was built. Is that correct? To start checking.
That's the metal detector.
Yeah, so who made that decision?
I'm sure that would probably be
With the
Jason
sheriff?
Hard and
Okay.
Thomas Sullivan.
The courthouse committee.
There's
The
a
courthouse committee?
There's a state law that says you can't bring firearm in a courtroom. There's an argument whether or not the entire building is the courtroom or not.
I see what you're saying.
This is gonna clarify that. Period, the end, can't come in the building.
Okay.
Okay. Pretty simple.
All right. Any discussion from the audience? Oh, read by title.
Okay. This will be proposed ordinance 17-23. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 11 offenses miscellaneous, Article 1 general of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish by adding Section 11-3.1, prohibition of firearms, designation of firearms free zone. The public hearing will be on June the 8th at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Steve. Did we get a motion?
I make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Matt, second by Mr. Ard. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Item 22, discussion of LPR number 17-098, accepting Tiger Lane into the parish maintenance system. LPR number 17-140, accepting Conley Court into the parish maintenance system. Discussion. I want to, if it's okay, I want to just include, add 22 and 23 together. 23 is adopt a resolution to rescind LPR number 17-098. First, number 2 is just a discussion about the same thing. So, 23 is adopt a resolution to rescind LPR number 17-098, accepting Tiger Lane, and LPR number 140, accepting Connolly Court into the parish maintenance system. Since each one was brought up independently, we'll go with you, Mr. King.
Yes, well, we've been asked by different councilmen since we got into bring different roads into the parish maintenance system. And I voted no on the one with Shane because I didn't know what about it, hadn't heard about it. Usually when a councilman asks me to do something in their district, it's not a problem, we'll go ahead and do whatever they need done. John told me about his road and it's in his district, I said, okay. Well, I just felt, ever since I voted yes on that road, and I went and looked at that road, I knew I'd made a mistake. Because these roads do not need to be in our maintenance system. Nothing against the people on these roads. They are roads that were designed before this ordinance that's in place now. So same thing with Shane. How old is your road? Do you know that road?
2007.
Okay, so that was a year or a year and a half before the current ordinance. Okay. I know the new roads that are not designed to meet parish standards, on their plats it says, buyer beware. Not to be taken in or maintained by the parish or the state, ever. Okay?
Does it say the word ever?
Well, it's not necessarily. It's got about this much written there. But the thing is, the reason it says that is because it's a private piece of property. Let me go ahead. Okay, so I made little notes here because I didn't want to just ramble because there's a lot of discussion we need to have on this. I felt like I had done the wrong thing and we need to try and correct it. I read over the road ordinance again, and I still feel it is a good ordinance. I've talked to many people from DPW on, and they say, well, you need to stick to it. Mr. Chris, good ordinance. They took a lot of time writing that ordinance, but it does keep us from taking in roads and maintaining some roads that need to be maintained. Okay? It was put in place on purpose like that because there was too many roads being trying to taken into the system. I say we need to look at these 2 roads that we've taken in, maybe rescind these roads, go back over and put something in place to try and help these people that are on these types of roads get some type of maintenance. I don't know if that'll ever happen, because right now we don't have the money to even maintain the roads we have. Okay, my job is to help the people within the confines of the law. Well, our law says we can't take those roads in. Okay? They don't meet the ordinance. And we can make waivers on any ordinance. We know this. But to be a good steward of our money, I just think that we need to have some type of system in place to where if a councilman gets somebody, brings a road to him, we need to judge it, grade it, whatever we need to do, and then, see if it's the right thing to do, putting putting drainage in, overlay, all this stuff to bring these up to some type of standard. And that's about all I know.
You can go. I just want my turn.
Was that a motion? Did you make a motion to rescind?
Not yet.
Not yet. Mr. Talbot.
Well, I thought.
No, he said.
Okay, all right.
Chris, when we did this, we talked, I think there was some discussion after the fact whether a resolution can waive an ordinance. We talked about being able to waive parts of an ordinance, but can a resolution waive an entire ordinance? And it got me thinking that maybe the process, we need to probably create a process that if a councilman wants to bring a road in that's not currently in, probably ought to submit the road to DPW and let DPW make an evaluation of the road with respect to the current ordinance. and they can tell us where the deficiencies are. Because we don't know what the deficiencies are. It might be the reason it's not in because it's a T-turn. It might be because there's no, it doesn't meet the road-based standard. And we could say, okay, we'll take it in the maintenance system as a gravel road forever. You know what I'm talking about? Because then we could maintain it. I'm just thinking that it's crazy for us to waive an entire ordinance to take a road in when we could have a professional evaluate the road, tell us where it's deficient, then we can make an educated decision on what part of the ordinance might need to be waived without waiving an entire ordinance. And then if it's the fact that the people, I don't know, I think I'd rather live on a good gravel road than a crappy asphalt road.
I mean, because at least you can fix it, yeah.
So my question is, maybe if we take these roads out, then y'all submit them to DPW. DPW can evaluate them. Sam can come back to the council and says, here, guys, Tiger Lane is, under the current ordinance, is too short, and it doesn't have a T-turn, but it meets every other standard. And then as a council, we might feel comfortable in saying, okay, those things don't affect the quality of the road. We feel like that we could make those waivers. We waive up 2 particular items and take the road in the parish maintenance system. He might come back and say, Tiger Lane is a great great gravel road, but there's no sub-base there, and so we could then, but it meets the servitude possible, situation, and then we could take it in to be maintained legally as a gravel road by the parish. So I'm just thinking that we kind of got ahead of ourselves and we took these roads in. We ought to remove them from the system, then create a situation for DPW to evaluate them. And after they make an evaluation, make the presentation to the council or the council person. And then that person can bring DPW's recommendation to the whole council and say whether you want to move forward or not move forward. We could have a public discussion on every road that we want to bring in and what its deficiencies are, and then make an educated decision on whether that road has possibilities or not. I'm trying to reach a compromise to create a situation that we all make educated decisions on roads that we bring into the parish maintenance system.
Well, I'm trying to help our people. That's the only reason we take roads in, is so we can help people on those roads. It ain't to make us look better because we took a road in. That ain't about it. We're not about that ever. So.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, please. Come on, hit us.
Please, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to say I appreciate your compassion to try to help the individuals on these roads. It means a lot to me. I know y'all are good men. Just want to say thank you.
There's a however.
Constituent.
However.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'd like to go over, a few things. One was the intent, that was asked. And I'd like to also go over why the ordinance wasn't followed and it was waived. 90% of it was waived. Okay. First of all, the intent was to waive all of the ordinance besides the number 1 on the list, line item number 1, which to me was the most important. And that is that it has 5 residential structures facing the road. I think John's had 7.
I think he's actually got more than that on.
Nope.
I think it was 12.
Well, I
went and wrote it.
That would be good. So, and let me also say that I wanted to follow the ordinance to the T, and so we wouldn't have to waive it, okay? But when I got to number 2, in the 60-foot servitude rule, the people were willing to give up the 60-foot servitude, okay? There's a huge problem here. The road was designed and put in place and constructed in the year 2007. In 2007, we didn't have all the current requirements, okay? To put the 10 inches of the soil cement and an 1.5 inches of asphalt and then the other 1.5 inches of asphalt. We didn't have all that in 2007. Also in 2007, it was allowed to have a 30-foot servitude for this road, okay? So the plat at the clerk of court's office
This is a private road.
had a 30-foot servitude. So I said, well, we'll just go make it 60 and try to follow as much of this ordinance as we can. Well, I ran into a problem because the property's mortgaged, okay? So in order to change the 30-foot servitude to a 60, you had to go back and renegotiate with the banks to release mortgaged property. It was impossible. Since, I'm skipping around, but since this ordinance was put in place, there have been 0 roads adopted into the parish maintenance system other than if we maintained them for 3 years first, okay? And we're obligated to do so. I personally think that this whole ordinance was started back when they passed that overlay sales tax, and they borrowed that money and they overlaid all those roads, and rumor has it that some parking lots were paved and driveways were paved, and the people of Livingston Parish felt like that was very wasteful. So they went and they put a petition together and developed all these rules, which seems to be great rules. I personally think that the 60-foot right-of-way, yeah, we want a 60-foot right-of-way, and we want our people allowed to go on that and maintain it. And if somebody needs to put a piece of pipe, to put a water line down there, hey, we got a 60-foot servitude and you can't stop us. But you run into a big problem whenever that property's mortgaged and you try to negotiate with a bank to release some of that property, okay?
You don't have to do that. It don't meet the standard, tell them no.
Hold on.
It's that easy.
Don't come, let me finish. Okay? So number 2, I wanted to do that and the people were willing, but it was impossible.
Yeah.
It was impossible to follow that ordinance. Number 3, okay? It says you got to bring it up to standard to 1354-1B. Okay. We knew the night we voted it in that it didn't meet the standard. Okay? We talked about that. Okay? The reason is because the standard didn't exist when they built the road, and the people can't afford to bring it up to standard. It's just as simple as that. And the reason that both John's Road and my road is in such bad shape is because nobody's been maintaining it. Parish, it ain't a parish road. They don't maintain it, and the people can't afford it. Okay? So that's why it's in such bad shape. All right. Number 4, got to have the T-turnaround in the cul-de-sac. From what I understand in 2007, and I don't know everything about everything, but that requirement wasn't there back then on a road that was, I think, less than 600 feet long. Okay? So that, I mean, we talked about it that night when we adopted Tiger Lane into the into the parish maintenance system, and everybody knew it, and we approved it anyway. So, pictures. I personally think that pictures, I mean, really? We need to go take pictures? I didn't, to me, the biggest requirement was the 60-foot servitude that I couldn't do. And so, I mean, the pictures, I mean, I figured, hey, we might as well waive that too if we're going to waive the rest of it. Number 6. There was no way for me to try to get the people to deed over property that they didn't own. I mean, you know what I'm saying? How could you do that? Now, the night we argued John's Road in, we talked about the property being dedicated over, okay? I 1,000% agree with that. You need to dedicate the road in, okay? However, I don't know everything about everything, but I felt like that I got signatures from the 5 houses on my road saying they wanted it in, okay? And I felt like I presented the facts to you guys and we voted it in. To me, the night we did that, we dedicated it. If I'm wrong about that, hey, we'll go back and do it. But getting back to number 6, the survey of the 30-foot servitude, it's already at the clerk of court's office, okay? All I was trying to do was take the private servitude and make it public. Why? Because you had 5 nice houses that were not homestead exempt, that were paying property tax to maintain public roads. I live on the same style road.
Property tax.
My neighbors live on a road that just got overlaid.
The property tax is for the,
There's a property tax paid by the citizens of Livingston Parish to maintain, for road maintenance. It goes to DPW. That is correct. So the argument to say that the taxes are being misused, to me, I don't agree with that, because the people are paying the tax, and that's what the tax is for. Okay? Once we make it a public road, hey, that's to me, that's legal. Okay? Now, if we want to go back, we talked that night about the 1,056-foot rule. You know, I wondered in the beginning where the 1,056-foot rule come from.
Yeah.
And I have no earthly idea, and I can't wait till the ordinance meeting and somebody shows up and explains that to me.
It's a fifth of a mile.
But I divided it out. Yeah, it's a fifth of a mile. I think they just pulled it out of the hat, if you ask me.
Told me.
So I say, hey, that's irrelevant. So the truth is the intent of the motions, and I think I made the comment in both meetings. Now, regardless of what we put in the resolution, and if we need to fix that, we can. But I made a statement in both meetings that we did not need to waive the entire ordinance. I made a statement that both roads had 5 houses or more on those roads. Okay, so I'm not going to argue the fact that the motion wasn't to waive 90%.
Yeah.
But it did meet some criteria, and to me, it was the biggest one. And to me, the rest of it is impossible, because if you allow somebody in 2007, or when Johns Road was created back in the 1960s or 70s, whenever,
Long time ago.
to construct it and you put a servitude out there, you know, and it is extremely difficult. It is practically impossible to go dedicate a 60-foot right-of-way. Now, I'm not a banker, I'm not an attorney, just trying to help the poor citizens out there on these roads. If I'm wrong, if it was the wrong thing to do to waive 90% of it, you know, and it's illegal, I mean, to me, we give waivers all the time, you know. Tonight we granted one on the, minor subdivision. Go back and look at that. I mean, you're probably waiving 50% of that minor subdivision ordinance by granting that waiver. There's no percentage on how much of a waiver we can give an ordinance. I mean, I'm asking you tonight to reconsider. I'm asking you tonight to maybe suspend the parish funding on these roads, to maybe not fill the potholes and that type of thing, until we can modify this ordinance and figure out if we're going to allow these roads to be adopted into that parish maintenance system. I've already contacted Sam DiGeronimo.
Mr. Bank.
Yes?
These roads are now in the parish maintenance
They are, well, currently they are in the parish maintenance system. However, there is some discrepancy.
There's no discrepancy. They're in.
I agree with you, but
without the right-of-way being deeded over.
Well, it doesn't have to be deeded over. We talked about that. But I think that, I'm just saying, I think that the current ordinance, I guess you need to make up your mind whether or not you're going to allow any roads into the parish maintenance system that were designed, built, and constructed before this current ordinance was in place.
That's what we need to look at.
To me, what I want to do is, the ordinance is good from when the day it was created and we started requiring 60-foot servitudes, be recorded in the clerk of court's office. But before that, it's almost impossible to get a 60-foot right-of-way dedicated. And I think that there are just a few roads left in Livingston Parish, that was built, designed, created before this ordinance was in place, that deserve the same quality of life that I currently live on my road, that was one time gravel, and then the parish took it in and graded it a few times, and then it became a paved road and got overlaid. Now, in closing, I just want to say another thing. we talked that night about, I know this is about money, okay? And do we have the money to maintain? Do we, no, we don't. We can't even afford to maintain the things we have now. Look, there's a budget, okay, to maintain roads, okay? Each district has their own crew. To the best of my knowledge, I don't run all that, but to the best of my knowledge, I know I got my own crew, and I can get a ditch dug out, hopefully by putting in a work order and escalating it. They fit potholes, they do all that sorts of thing. And what you do is you put the work order in, it's on a fixed, and they're already on the payroll. It's not going to cost us any extra money. We just simply prioritize the work order and get to it whenever resources allow you to get to it, just like we operate today. So to sit here and say, in my opinion, that you cannot afford to maintain these roads, we already have a grader. We already have people on payroll with trucks and shovels and spray. Where is the additional expense? The additional expense is an overlay. So if we want to say, hey, we're going to wait 10 years, we're going to wait 20 years before this road is allowed to be overlaid, okay? Because it just ain't fair, okay? Because we have so many other priorities that need to take place. Okay, not a problem. We all know the reason why I asked y'all to put Tiger Lane in, okay? They're okay with not overlaying the road. John's Road, yeah, it was in worse shape than we originally thought. But it's because the parish hadn't been maintaining, the people can't afford to maintain it. Yeah, it's going to be in bad shape. You build a road and it's 30 years old and you don't maintain it. Well, yeah, it's going to be in pretty bad shape.
So let me ask you one thing. These roads that we took in your district that were logging roads.
What roads are you referring to?
Well, the man came to planning. They built so many on servitude in your district and below on 63.
Go ahead.
When are they going to ask us to bring those in? They don't mean anything either.
Okay, hold on. That's a good question.
That's why, yeah.
Okay.
That's how we get to fix it. We'll figure it out.
If those roads, if the plot is recorded in the clerk of court's office and that minor subdivision was developed before this ordinance was created, to me, they need to be held to the standards in this ordinance. The road better meet it, or else you knew about the law before you built it and designed it. You know, to me, to go back and require these others to adhere to these requirements, they didn't even know they exist.
Did you look at the road ordinance from 1973? 60-foot servitude, so much base, so much everything. I got my council ladies to find it for me. There's a road ordinance since 1973.
The reason these roads aren't in the parish is they didn't meet the standard when they were built.
And
they didn't meet the standard when they were built. Make no mistake about it. We've had the discussions about there have been people referred to them as high dollar subdivisions. The reason those subdivisions cost more money to buy lots in them is because a developer built roads that meet the standard, put utilities in, did the engineering, and did the drainage. And so consequently, that's a cost. I know somebody that's building a subdivision, and basically the engineering and the improvements figure out to be a little over $20,000 a lot. So what you're telling me is if somebody bought a lot and didn't pay for those improvements, we're gonna take their road in and we're gonna have everybody in the parish pay for those improvements when they got a $20,000 discount on their lot? That's basically what it amounts to, Shane. We're only asking that everything be a level playing field. All we're asking is if you submit it to DPW and let DPW tell this council where the deficiencies are. And then if the council wants to waive the deficiencies, that's up to them. I have a feeling, though, that there are certain deficiencies that are not negotiable. And if we're going to ask DPW to maintain them, they ought to have some say if we're taking in substandard roads. That's the only thing I got to say about it. I'd like to make a resolution right now. I'd like to make a motion to remove Tiger Lane and Connolly Court from the parish maintenance system. I don't know if I'm going to get a second.
I'll second that.
Are you gonna move every street in the parish that doesn't meet the standards with that same motion too? Or you're just gonna do those two?
We're gonna move those
do it
two.
Until we can get something in place
So
to
just those
evaluate
two.
it. That's only two that just got added in.
Hang on,
Since
hang on a second,
1909.
guys. We got a motion by
2009.
Mr. Talbot and a second by Mr. King. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, that, to your point.
Just those two though?
Because we just took, that's the only ones we've taken in that were substandard roads that I felt uncomfortable about taking them in.
Hey,
I don't know how anybody else feels.
that's the only two that we've taken in since this ordinance was created. The only way we have taken any roads
Because none of them meet
in.
the standard.
Huh?
Because none of them meet standard. Let's work on
But
making
the
something
standard
meet a
was
standard.
created
I know.
after the fact.
But I have a feeling, which if you go do the research, you'll find out the reason the road isn't in the parish maintenance system now is because when it was built, it didn't meet the standard that existed at that point in time.
I disagree. The reason it wasn't adopted in was because it didn't have the houses on the road at that particular point in time to meet the requirements.
That's probably true. Yeah, you're right. You're probably right.
Your road's case,
Yeah.
but probably not in yours.
Okay, let me say one thing also, and they both may be right in that, but these people that have lived on this road for 20, 30 years.
They've been paying
have
taxes
paid the
for 30
same
years.
amount of property tax for everybody to drive on as the person who lives on another road, and they've paid the same amount, and over 20 years,
drive
we've
on
spent
roads
money
that's
to
been
fix
fixed with
these
their
people's
money.
houses,
And they drive
but
it on-
never spent money to
And
fix
they
these
driving on parish roads. The property tax is not for the road in front of your house, it's for every parish road. And if you driving on parish roads, you getting your tax dollars worth.
Me, along with all the neighbors and everybody that live on 63 and other state highways, we pay our taxes, and we will never get a road paved in front of our house. But we pay our share.
With their parish property
My
tax.
property taxes goes to the parish, and they pave roads throughout the parish. But it'll never happen in front of my house, because I live on the state highway.
Well, the state will pay it,
I know, but that's.
But I still pay my taxes to the parish.
Well, and I'll say this too. You're absolutely right. They have been paying into the parish, to the road maintenance program.
20 years.
For as long as it's been in place.
That's right.
But he does make a good point in saying that in most of the neighborhoods, even the ones before the 2007, they paid extra money for their property in that neighborhood, or to have, they paid more for their lot to have that road paved by the developer. It's,
You can pay up front or you pay later.
I'm torn on that.
I think that the people that bought the lot, you have to understand too, the comment about, hey, the plot was stamped, okay? A lot of people, when they go to purchase a house, maybe not the people that bought the land and built it, but a lot of people, when they go to purchase a house, you know, you go to the closing and they got a book and a half for you to sign.
Plenty, yeah.
How many people look at everything and read all the fine print? They're just excited to have this wonderful house, okay? And another thing too is keep in mind that some of these lots that you're saying that only cost, you know, half of what the subdivision lots cost, was all these people could afford. The lady that asked me to adopt Tiger Lane into the parish maintenance system was a lunchroom lady from the Livingston Parish School Board, and her income level did not allow her to go purchase a home in one of those high-dollar subdivisions, okay? And let me also say that the only loan that she qualified for, okay, to purchase this house was a low-interest government loan. And they wouldn't mortgage the property unless it was a parish road. So we adopted into the parish maintenance system. She was able to purchase her home and live across the street from her grandkids and raise them, help raise them. And I'm not trying to make you feel sorry for anything. Y'all do the right thing. I'm just saying I felt like it would be okay. That every now and then, you know, we could take a road or two in and it wouldn't break the bank.
And Shane, I voted with you because I felt the same way. And then a week later, 2 weeks later, we got a road in that didn't have any business being in the system. And I realized that once you open the floodgate, that there's no stopping it.
I've got
So
three that are trying to get in now.
I got somebody that called me the other day, bought property on Hunter Brook. Now, Hunter Brook is a private road, and it's stamped on the plot plan that it's private, will not be part of the parish maintenance system. But the person that sold them a lot told them that when they got enough houses built, we would take it in the system. Well, guess what? I got the call early this week. They got enough houses, they want to be brought into the system. Well, that's not the way it works.
It sounds like to me the realtor lied to them.
Well, I understand.
This is gonna snowball, and we gotta stop it
But what I'm
tonight.
saying is, what I'm telling you is, we gotta reverse what we did that was wrong. We gotta set up a system to get roads evaluated. Then we gotta make a determination, one by one, an educated determination.
So why are we rescinding these roads and not just leaving them as is?
Because we made a mistake.
And bring a new ordinance.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna back up 5 years and take every one of these back out?
No, we're gonna take out
We didn't do but 2.
Exactly.
We did 2.
What's the difference?
That's
They
the
gotta
only
come
2
out.
that have been brought in.
Well, let's call for the vote.
They gotta come out.
That's the best thing, do call for the vote.
Well, there's a motion
I'd
for
like to
previous
say-
question
I'd like
that
to
either
say
needs a
something
vote
before we
to
vote.
keep the discussion going.
I mean,
Go ahead, Bubba.
I want to,
Hang on, what's that?
Once there's a motion to call the question, if there's not an agreement to call the question, there's a vote whether or not to extend the debate. So the motion is to end the debate.
I agree with you. I said the debate vote.
Vote.
All right.
Is there any
I want
opposition to the
to say
question?
one more thing, please.
No, there's
No, it
opposition.
hadn't voted past.
There's a vote to whether or not to end the debate. So if there's opposition.
I just got one more thing to say.
Well, then you say we need a vote on the previous question. If you vote yes, it's the end of the debate.
Do you have something else? you want to
Please,
say?
this will take 1 second.
Okay, then we have to vote to the previous question. How do
What do we vote?
Vote to
Vote to
continue
end
the
the
discussion.
debate.
basically.
All right, I make the motion to continue debate.
Call the vote.
Last thing I'm gonna say before we vote is this. Mr. Bubba.
You can't.
Wait.
There's a motion. There's a motion.
Okay, you made a motion to continue. Held a second.
Does he have?
I'll give him a second.
All right, second by John.
So we
Sandy,
got
call the
to
vote.
vote to continue the debate.
Yep, Ms. Sandy.
Mr. R.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes, let's talk some more.
We got
Mr.
10 minutes.
Lobel.
Yes.
Start to the
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes. This was a very valuable point that I've left out, and I just wanted to say, Mr. Bubba Harris mentioned the idea of maybe allowing the people in the subdivision that he referenced, to pass a tax within themselves and bring the parish road up to standard. I'd like to say that, in my opinion, you're going to have to go get a waiver and waive majority of this current ordinance to do that. Because that subdivision was built so long ago, I doubt it has a 60-foot servitude, and all that property is probably mortgaged. And I don't see where it's possible to go get the new survey and a new plat and file it at the courthouse. The only way to do that would be to take the current servitude and just completely adopt it into the parish maintenance system.
Go ahead, make your comment.
Okay, hang on.
That's all I gotta say.
Hey, Shane.
Yeah.
Shane.
Tracy's on.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harris.
Thank you, sir. I've got a road or street. It's called Clear Lake.
That's the one he's talking about.
Yeah, that is probably got 100 to 125 houses in it. It was a private development at one time. The property owner passed away. He was more or less doing the maintenance work on the streets in there. And now that he's gone, they have no recourse. And they had talked to me about bringing it into the parish system. And I said, there's no way. Not under the condition that it is in. And I've been talking with them, and we're working on the tax. That's all curb and gutter streets in there. But they still
That's
don't
for
meet
y'all,
parish standards.
that's for them to maintain it themselves.
Right.
To actually get it up to standard to bring it in the maintenance system.
Right, that's what,
They're just gonna maintain it themselves.
well, they want, and they want to bring it up to parish standards, then turn it over to
Your
the
people
parish.
paying the tax to do that? But that's what he's.
I understand Mr. Bubba's point. How many homes you said it was, Mr. Bubba?
It's
Roughly
125 at least.
Okay, Shane has 5, John has 12. you can tax it for 100 years.
Yeah, there's no.
There's no possible way.
Yes, sir.
I just want to point out that, when you grant a waiver to suspend an ordinance, you have to, that waiver has to be good across the board. So if there are any other roads that don't meet your standards, then you would have to take them into.
That's the problem, it's snowballing, guys.
So, I'm all for accommodating the local people that have
me
this
too.
problem.
So what are you saying?
Well, let me ask you one more question, Mr. Moody. Can we legally just suspend any funds going to maintain those roads until after the ordinance is revised? And if the council decides after the ordinance is revised to adopt them keep it like it is, and if not, then rescind them, can we do that legally?
Yeah, you could just pass a resolution to suspend any work on the road until the ordinance committee can work on an amendment. That is certainly a possibility.
But by saying that, you're almost conceding the fact that we're going to lower the standard that we currently have.
And we may not.
And we may not lower the standard.
Well, if that's the case, then
Let's pull them out, move on.
If that's the case, let's pull them out after the ordinance is revised.
But he's saying also, just to be clear, he said that if we accepted those roads, then we are bound to accept every road that's in the same, around this, with.
The same deficiencies.
The same deficiencies.
So I'm not okay with that.
All right, we got
a motion and a second.
Really?
Look, can I ask a question? How is that possible? Well, we grant waivers on minor subdivisions and stuff all the time. Sometimes we deny it, sometimes we
that doesn't make
approve
ordinance
it.
void.
But we're waiving a whole
you have to
ordinance.
treat everybody equally. So, I've always said you grant waivers rarely and for very minor things. So if they only have a 59-foot servitude, well then that's a considered waiver because there's just not enough room for it. Or like the development tonight, the angular piece of land didn't quite meet it and it would otherwise be non-developable. So as long as you make the same waivers for everybody in that same circumstance, you're okay. Like I say, you just need to be careful about waivers. I've always said that.
So I think that where we're at is, in my opinion, if we have to hold everybody to the same standard, and that's the case, you want to adjust the ordinance, correct?
I would love to adjust the current ordinance, and wasn't there a motion on the floor?
There's a motion.
Motion's already in motion in a second.
I'd like to make a counter motion that we suspend any maintenance funding that's being spent, or any funding at all on these two roads until after the ordinance is revised. And then at that time, if the council feels that the roads need to be rescinded, then we'll rescind them.
Motion?
Motion needs a second, or substitute.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Lobel. Any discussion from the audience? We're going to vote.
Okay.
Yes. We're gonna keep digging this hole deeper and deeper. We're gonna move on here.
We gotta go.
Go ahead.
Can we take a break?
My name is Joe Kozrowski. I live at 10783 Highway 1033. My question is, if you grant this waiver and you say it has to be across the board, does that include every deal that we've passed on a minor subdivide that has a private servitude now? Does that also become part of the parish road system? The one we granted tonight was 16 houses that are going to be on that private servitude. We've got one off of Lockhart Road that's 2,000 feet that's got 5 or 6, 7 lots on it. Does that mean that private servitude now goes into the system also because it falls into the same waiver system? Every new deal that comes across the Planning Commission's desk that says this is a private servitude and we're putting a bunch of houses in here, but they're going to be upper end houses because it's 2 or 3 acre lots. Does that mean we're going to go in and automatically take those into the system also, even though they're going to be substandard? Because we have no standards to set that road to. Does that mean that goes into, Mr. Moody?
Well, it means all those people could apply for a waiver.
And if we grant it for one, then are we open a liability door to grant it for all of them?
That's pretty much how the courts have held it.
That's a non-issue. We gotta just do
We
this.
just got to vote no on the substitute and yes on the original motion and then.
Let's work on it.
Thank you, Joe. We've got a motion and a second to
Suspend any funding on these two roads until after the ordinance has been revised And then the council can decide whether or not they're going to leave these roads in the
Sandy,
parish
call the
maintenance
vote.
system.
Mr. Ard?
No.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Grillinghouse?
No.
Mr. King?
No.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mr. Talbert?
No.
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
So that means,
Now the
Now
original
we're gonna vote on
motion.
the original motion.
Original motion.
and that is to rescind those two roads, take them back out of the maintenance system, correct?
5-4.
Yes. Motion, the motion by Mr. Talbot was to
Rescind the two roads.
rescind the two roads.
You can do that?
Who can?
Can we do that?
You did it by motion, I guess you can undo it by motion.
Okay, so you're saying when we did it by motion, it was legal to do that, correct?
I had reservations about the legality of it that night too, about
Exactly, I remember that.
So, okay, let me
I
say
think it's the
this.
exact
Okay,
word,
hold on.
fellas, y'all have
Okay.
a good ordinance. Y'all don't need to take these
Well, I
roads.
appreciate that, but you know, we have, in my particular road, and I know it's in bad shape, but when we was asked to go out and grade the road with a grader, the words were, oh, we can never go on there and grade a road. That would be illegal. That's private property. But now I'm hearing, oh, well, just take it out, then we'll just go down there and do a grade. So, and then you're saying that if the parish has been maintaining roads for 3 years, they're not in the parish system, it automatically becomes parish system, parish maintained road, a parish road.
No, it doesn't automatically because
There's a
we have
state
to
law that
legally
says
accept
that we may accept it.
which I don't agree with either, but that's a different point altogether.
That's why they put it as may.
So I guess what I'm saying, guys, I really think, you know, we all need to try to work together to help people. We don't bring a bunch of roads into this parish. We don't do a lot of waivers. This is a chance to help the people that we represent. Once in a while, we have to bring a road into the parish, and it's not costing us a bunch of money. It's not like we're overlaying it. We're just doing some potholes and maintenance on them. That's all I gotta say.
On what, your road?
Yeah, or any road that we take in.
Okay,
Nobody's asking to overlay it, Mr.
You can't go, you
Chairman.
gotta vote.
okay, yeah, let's just vote.
Ready for the vote?
We got a motion
Yeah.
from Mr. Talbot, a second by Mr. King. Sandy, call the vote.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
No.
Mr. Grillinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. Mr.
Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Lobel?
No.
Mr. Averett?
No.
Mr. Mack?
No.
Motion passes.
Item 24, accept Cypress Point to the parish maintenance system.
I think we should bring the table up with.
I make a motion to accept it into the parish maintenance system.
I'll
Motion
second
by,
that motion.
motion by
But
Mr.
I do have something to say.
That's okay. Motion by, motion by
that's
Mr.
fine.
Wascom, second by Mr. Averett. Go
Okay.
ahead.
This road here is in my district. This road has been maintained by the parish since January the 12th of 2011. The previous administration
Has been maintaining this road.
approved it to be maintained, but they did not bring it to the parish council.
So they've been going on private property.
I guess it's a public road.
Not a public road.
Well, it's not a public road.
Private road.
Well, we're making a motion to bring it in.
Make it a public
And
road.
it's a good gravel road you got in this parish.
Does it meet the
Yes.
standard?
Yes.
It does. It's big.
It does a big wide road.
Gravel roads are standard?
Yes.
What do you say, does it meet the standard?
What we do have.
Other than it being gravel. Let's just say that.
A road can be gravel.
Well, it can be
Yeah,
gravel.
it can be
Yeah.
a gravel road, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Other than,
our parish has been maintaining it, like I say, since
Is it a gravel
2011.
road? I heard that it was half and half.
No, it's not half. It's they went in and blacktopped a quarter of it in the back by the subdivision,
By the houses.
by the houses, and the rest of it is gravel.
So why don't you submit the road to Sam and let him do an evaluation and bring it to us and tell us what's deficient about it and what's not?
Like we do in all of them, then it'd be right.
And then we can make an educated decision based on Sam's recommendation.
What do you mean like we doing all that? We're not doing that now.
I actually talked to
It would
Sam
be done
about
right, like we're fixing to do.
about that particular road.
Yeah, I have to.
And he
Yes.
said, yeah, said,
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
we should
Let-
bring it in. So,
just come on up and.
Can you get a word in edgewise?
I'm a little bit afraid to jump into this.
No, jump in, Miss Lynn.
My name is Lynn McMorris, and I live on Cypress Point, 15799 Cypress Point Lane in French Settlement. And we met with Mike Grimmer and Don Wheat January 10th, 2011. In fact, I've still got the audio recording of the meeting we had with him where he told us he was taking the road. We had to do some things in order for him to take the road. He said there were two conditions. One, they had to have the road evaluated by I believe it was a man by the name of Wayne Martin, who did come out subsequently, and he did evaluate the road. He said it had a better road bed than they even could have dreamed of. It had proper servitude, and they had no problems with the road at that time. The other thing we had to do was we had a very ornate big iron gate with remotes, and we had to take all that down, dismantle all that so that it could be accessible as a public road, which we did. So as he stated, on the 12th, they started maintaining the road. It was our understanding that it had been taken. We were told it had been taken by the parish. And from that moment on, they have maintained the road. It was a good road before they took it. It'd been evaluated. If y'all want to evaluate it again, we've got no problem with it, but we know that it was evaluated.
Yes, ma'am.
And, you know, we were very surprised just to very recently find out that it
not
had
on
not been
list.
voted on.
And I think we're all
So-
kind of surprised to find out it wasn't in the system.
Right, oh, absolutely.
Because it meets all the criteria. I've talked to Sam about it, Mr. Bubba said
Well,
he's
that's what I'm
talked to
saying, if we can put this off doing and get it on the next agenda, which we'll have to, and then we can
Let Sam make it,
make
let Sam
it,
tell us
make it
about it.
something in place to help these roads, because that's what our desire is to do, right? Fix these roads of some type of maintainment.
Yeah, we did call
Yeah,
them.
yeah, I mean, y'all have already actually invested so much in this
Sure,
road.
and so if it beats-
I don't have the figure, I'd be
It's not a
curious,
big deal.
one of y'all might, you know, have that figures.
I think it's
don't know.
around 35,000 over the 6, 7 years, whatever it is.
Okay, so I mean, y'all
We've been
have
spending
already
money
made
on it,
investment
yeah.
in this road. So we'd appreciate y'all's consideration on this, and if you have any questions, please
Thank
let us
you.
know.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn.
I want to say something here. And you said it meets everything, and that's great. I have no problem bringing it into the system. But one, I personally want them to tell me that. I want DPW to tell me that. I have a problem when they say, well, we've been maintaining it for 3 years, we got to bring it in. Because at that point, who's dictating what roads come in? It's not us. They're telling us we have to do it
Previous
legally.
administration
If they're
brought it in.
maintaining the road and it's not in the parish system, is that legal?
Basically, state law says if it's been maintained for 3 years, you may bring it in the system. It doesn't say you have to. I think given this situation and what we've talked about for the last 45 minutes about the other two roads, is that we need to have Sam evaluate it, come to us and tell us whether it's deficient, not deficient, whatever the standard is, and then we'll accept it based on his recommendation. But I just think it'd be hypocritical for us to take that one in, given we've just kicked two out because we want Sam's recommendation.
And look, I don't parish roads in my district that this thing looks like I-12.
Hey, I agree. I don't
Just some of
disagree,
the
but
parish roads I got.
I think DPW needs to tell us that.
And Ms. Lynn, if what you're saying is true, and I have no reason to believe that you're lying. I mean, I believe you're saying it's that way. Nothing would make me happier than to bring that road into the parish system.
Absolutely. We have a motion and a second.
But I don't, we do, but I'm speaking.
Okay.
So, sorry. But I don't want someone saying, because it was kind of brought to me in a way of, we've been maintaining it for 3 years, you have to bring it in. 6 years, 6 years, 10 years, whatever. At that point, we're not really deciding whether this road comes in or not, are we?
Can I say something? I'm sorry for cutting you off.
That's okay.
But I think that before we vote, we need to wait for Chris to come back in here and ask him a question. Because I'm not 100% sure exactly what the law says in front of me, but it becomes a public road after you've maintained it for 3 or more years.
I think it may become a public road.
Let's ask him.
I heard him ask Mr. Booty that very question. He said, yes, it does say may, but we'll wait for him to come back in.
Oh, well, I believe-
Meantime, we'll have this.
I believe
No, let me hear what you have to say, man. What's your name?
Linda Harbison, 15891 Cypress Point Lane, and I really want to thank Jeff for the work he's done. 3 people that are here tonight were sitting in the room with Mike Grimmer when he gave us the road. And I just want you to realize that since that time, people that have bought in the subdivision thought the parish had the road. We were one of the original people. We've been there 15 years. We knew it was our road and we maintained it. But since that time, there are a lot of houses that believed Livingston Parish took over the road. So,
Yes, ma'am.
just to make sure you understand that.
And it sounds like to me that this road is a no-brainer, but I want them to tell me that. I want to know,
Yeah, it shouldn't take the 2 weeks. And we'll do it. Yeah, do that
So
right.
you're sure it meets all the other criteria in the ordinance?
Yes, I want to make sure of that. I don't want to be dictated to that
No
it's been in the
reason to
business,
have
it's been
a
in
road
this,
that
we've
will
been
pass.
maintaining it,
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it
you know.
it ain't like they're gonna run out there tomorrow and do work on it.
Yes.
So,
So you're going to vote against it, figure out that's.
No, you'll see how I vote against, I'll vote, but I don't want to be told that, yes, you have to vote it in because, we've been maintaining it. Well, at that point, why do you even need me? Why do you need this council? Because they're not.
I understand that point of it, I really do.
So, I mean,
Sam's already told myself, and he's told Mr. Bubba, that the road meets all the criteria.
Okay.
but
Does he need to call each one of us and tell us?
No.
Well,
I'm just asking.
all he has to do is call
Let me-
council.
Something in place.
What?
Let me say one thing, or ask Mr. Averitt a question.
Okay.
I would like for you to withdraw this motion. I'm just asking you that. And you know how I stand. And between now and the 8th, we'll get with Sam, get him to look at it, and come before us, and then we can vote on it.
Yeah, 'cause you know how I
Well,
stand.
he's already,
I want to take this road in.
Mr. Averitt's already
We need to
said
do it
that Sam said it meets everything.
Yeah.
So,
He's talked to Mr. Bubba too about it, this is a fine road.
yeah, that's fine. So, did you have a question?
Shane, you wanted to,
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question, if the parish has been maintaining it for 3 years
6 years.
because they thought that it truly was a parish road, with good faith, what does the law state? Do you know, are we obligated to take the road in? Does it say you may take it in, or does it automatically
Or does it
become a public
recommend?
road or for public use?
Right, it's a complicated question. Yes, it becomes a public road, meaning everybody has the right to get on it. 90% of the time this issue comes up is when one neighbor tries to block a road from his neighbor getting on it. And they go to court and they say, well, it's been even though it's never been dedicated, never been accepted into the system, et cetera, there was maintenance done on it on a regular basis for more than 3 years, it becomes a public road. So that's the law that it talks about it being public. Is it in your maintenance system? Do you have an obligation to maintain it? I think that's a different issue. I think for the most part, y'all have taken in those roads, and you can justify doing that because of that law that says they are public. So you're not spending public money on private roads, because by that point, it is public. So you get around that prohibition. You also can abandon any road anytime you feel like it's in the public interest. Can't leave anybody high and dry. But I think it's, you suppose you could say, we're not taking it in, but I think your practice has been to take in those roads that have been demonstrably maintained by you regularly for 3 years or more.
Yeah, we've been taking care of this one for 6.
So, I'm sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
So, you're saying that that, and then his name, Mr. Sam. Mr. Sam told you that it meets the criteria.
Yeah, it's fine road. I don't have a problem with, let's not say rescinding.
Yeah.
Putting this up for 2 weeks.
we don't wanna vote it down,
That's
and
right.
it is a good road.
I don't know if it gets voted
I
down.
hate to
or not.
relick this cash in
Yeah.
2 weeks, but I guess we.
I don't think this land them have a problem for us waiting 2 weeks.
I'm gonna be on
Call for the
vacation,
vote,
so
you
y'all
know.
lose the vote.
All right. So, you want to,
I'd hate to vote it down tonight, and we don't know how it's gonna come out, but I would hate to do that for the people that live there.
In 2 weeks.
And then we'll have to
after we get
revisit
the-
this anyhow.
I bet it'll
You
pass
know?
tonight, but I ain't against go holding off.
I'm not against holding off, and I don't think none of these folks are.
Well, we would appreciate that, Jeff, because we wanna get it right.
Let me rescind my motion.
Withdraw.
Let's call it rescind.
And that's not saying.
thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Withdraw.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So let me ask you a question. Can we evaluate the other 2 roads also and bring those
Yes,
back at the
yes,
same
indeed.
time?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. That's, we're not trying to take them out and leave them out.
That's what we're trying to do in the
Get a
beginning.
mechanism in place to fix.
Get Sanders to evaluate them two roads, and bring a recommendation to
Miss
us.
Sandy, can
We
you
may
put that
want to
back
put
on the
some
agenda
type of
for
thing in
2
the
weeks for
ordinance
me,
saying
please?
Roads built prior to a certain date, we can maintain but never overlay.
Okay.
I just have one question.
What's that?
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question. I want to be very clear leaving here tonight. So we're gonna table this for 2 weeks, and we understand, we're confident. If it met criteria 6 years ago before y'all started doing maintenance, it surely does now.
Yes.
So we're okay with that, but we just want to make sure that's the only thing that really stands between us and getting this taken in is having them okay it as
Yes,
good road.
ma'am. To me, that's the only thing, because what we did tonight, we were trying to fix something to make us feel comfortable with what we're doing.
Yes, sir, we understand that.
And so we want to get a mechanism in place to maybe get some maintenance done on these roads that were built prior to a certain date. And so we can help the people on those roads.
Right.
And do it the right way to make the taxpayers feel like we're doing the right thing too. You
We
know?
understand that. We understand it can be a contentious issue.
Oh, it is. It's just,
And I'd like to invite every one of y'all to go down and ride on that road.
I believe
It's that good of a road.
Look,
I'm
when you
sure.
tell me it's like that, I ain't gonna not believe it.
It's way better than some of the blacktop
Of course,
roads.
it has been maintained by the parish
It's
also.
been maintained by the
Well, that's why it's in
parish.
good
Okay,
shape. That's
for
right.
at least the one I have, hasn't been maintained by the parish.
Right,
Okay,
that's
so-
Thank you for your
Y'all
consideration and thank you,
help on
Jeff.
that.
If y'all go ride on it, you gotta watch out, make sure the parish
It's
grader
not
don't
very
run
far
over
from
you.
Hilltop if y'all want to come to.
He made the motion, Councilman Wascom, so he really needs to be the one to withdraw it.
Oh, okay.
Ask him, does he mind if it's withdrawn?
Do you mind if
Since
it's
you made the
withdrawn?
original motion.
Mr. Bodine, it's up to you.
No, that's fine, we can withdraw it tonight, but I want it on the agenda in 2 weeks.
Okay, then I'll withdraw the motion. Thank you for clarifying that. Mr.
Nothing for the district report, committee reports?
Wait.
Mr. Albert?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I interrupted. My bad.
It's okay.
Before we end, I had something to say, but I want to wait till the end.
Comments, councilman comments? Or?
Finance committee, we, Chris, you know,
He's trying. I don't blame you, Chris.
That close.
He said he missed
He
the
wants
game.
a real.
I don't blame you, Chris.
the parish amended their employee policies on 5/18/2017 to conform to federal regulations with respect to the accrual of comp time on declared emergencies. The committee recommended tonight to accept that. We need the council to vote on that to confirm. It's been signed by the parish president, but he wants us to concur with him on that so that, because of federal regulations, to be sure that we're in compliance. So it basically says, I know a lot of y'all heard it, this debate, because it was right before the meeting started, that basically on a declared emergency, employees that have to come to work get time and a half comp time for the first 40, then double time comp time on everything after 40, and then they're reimbursed. If FEMA reimburses, then they're reimbursed comp, 90% of that in cash. But for FEMA to be able to reimburse, we need to get this policy adopted. So I'd like to make a motion that we adopt 213, work performed on parish holiday and declared state of emergencies, that was revised 5/18/2017 and signed by the parish president.
And I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. King. Any discussion from the two people left in the audience?
Billy? Joe?
You're good? You're good?
We wore them down.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Awesome. All right, councilman comments, Mr. Matt.
Questionnaire.
Yes, I wanted.
Wait, I'm sorry.
We'll have one more.
We also have to vote to accept the compliance questionnaire as filled out. We accepted that. So we gotta vote as a council to accept the compliance questionnaire, which is part of the audit. I'd like to make a motion to accept it.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Averett.
All right.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Ms. Sands.
All right, Mr. Mack.
Now, Mr. Mack.
Please.
We promise we're done.
On a positive note, so we can all walk away smiling, I would like to let the council know that the bill that we proposed so we could pay the planning commission $100 per meeting passed in the House and it passed in the Senate. All we have to do is approve an ordinance and that's a done deal come January 2018.
Wait, this meeting's not over?
Wait,
Lift the agenda.
The governor got to sign it first.
All right, so
buddy.
I got something I have to read here.
Okay.
This still won't take long.
We don't have to.
This is public notice. Livingston Parish currently has 85 adjudicated properties available for deposit at civicsource.com. The next online auction will be held on Wednesday, June 7th, 2017 at 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. To initiate the auction process on one or more properties, the investor must place a deposit of $850 on each property, which starts the prerequisite legal research and notification process that is required before the auction takes place. The pre-sale process takes approximately 120 days to complete. If the current property owner pays all delinquent taxes and fees during the pre-sale period, the depositor is refunded the deposit and the sale is halted. Visit civicsource.com to learn more. Properties start at $0 plus closing costs and include title insurance. All right.
Mr. Girlinghouse, I would like to make one comment, and in the midst of all the struggles tonight, I really appreciate y'all working with me and being patient, but I would like to say I am so thankful that I got a chance to taste the most wonderful fried ribs.
Well, we've been trying to get back in there.
And I would like you to know.
I want to make a motion to adjourn.
If that was
Second, Mr. Mayor, all in favor, say aye. All opposed?